So I thought when I saw the Max Meltdown that this would be a good like intersection with mind, body, mental fitness. You can really do it about any time, throughout the year, but getting into the new year, we talk a lot about stress and resilience. So when we think about stress and turning stress into growth opportunities and recognizing stress before it becomes a problem, can you imagine in your life, like when does stress start to hit? Like what are those triggers? And that's what we want to look at here. That's what we want to look at here is like what are the things that stress us out? And I know right now, coming from COVID, and having to come back to work, a lot of people are stressed out. They're stressed because they've been teleworking for, anywhere from 15 months to 2 years, whatever it might be. And that's stress. And there's a lot of anxiety. So how do we take those stressors? How do we become resilient with them? And that's what we're going to look at here. So we can go on to the next slide. And I do have some handouts in the back. Feel free to grab and take. So we look at stress as an external or internal influence, right? And it disrupts our daily way of living. So whether that be home, work, if you're in school, your kids. I know that when I'm stressed, my kids get the brunt of it because my husband can't. So it's just easier to put it on them, and probably two teenage boys and a 9-year-old daughter. So they bring me all the stress. But work, started a new job. That was a big stressor for me. I moved from Washington State back to Ohio. Like that was huge. But I had family to lean on. So that was one of the things that I found as, like there's a resiliency tool for me is like if I needed help, I had to ask for it. You can go to the next one. So types of stress, there are positive stressors. I do always like to put that one first because we need to remember that there can be positive stress and it, from adverse experiences that, they're just short lived and it may be like this morning, I got a call that my kids were on a 2-hour delay, very short lived, right? So I just rearranged some things. I dropped off my younger one and my boys get to walk to school later. Like didn't ruin my day, but man, at 5:55 this morning, I was a little stressed out. Tolerable stress. So it's more intense, but again, short-lived. Nothing that's, that may cause you to enter some of these zones that we'll talk about later. And then, of course, toxic stress over long periods of time, weeks, months, years, and that can be stress from many different things. Again, I work with victims of domestic violence, so that's going to be some of that toxic stress. It can be, divorce or death, anything that you can think of that would fill that of weeks, months, years that you are continually looking. And if you are having that toxic stress, I always, I will urge you to talk to your healthcare professional because they'll be able to help you with that. You can go on to the next one. So symptoms of stress. Does anybody want to talk about any of your own toxic or if you have toxic stress or you have positive stress, and what made you want to come and get these resources on stress and resiliency? Yeah, that's really stressful. Yeah. It especially if they're living with you, even if they're living like say in an assisted living, that's just as stressful, right? You're leaving work, you're going to, take care of them and then you have to come home and take care of your own family. So figuring out what you can do to it's that self-care, how do I take care of myself first, before I can take care of somebody else? And that's always my biggest one. Um, if you're not taking care of you, then you can't take care of others. So when you have a situation where you're taking care of, whether it be a child with disabilities or an elderly parent, or sibling, finding ways to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so you're not taking out your stress on those that you're caring about. Because that's where things like, elder abuse or child abuse, neglect, things come in, because we get stressed out and we let our emotions take over in the way we behave. So again, and it brings us straight right into symptoms of stress, right? I know when I'm stressed, I wouldn't, bedwetting, that's more of like a child, that, not saying that it doesn't happen in adults, but that's going to be a symptom of what would happen in a child if they were, stressed out or experienced some sort of traumatic event. Again, stuttering, more of a kid, but even adults. Say you had a stuttering issue when you were young. You'd work through it, speech therapy, whatever, but now as an adult, you find that that's your trigger when you're stressed out. Like you can't get your sentences out, you're stuttering through, you're angry. I'm emotional when I'm stressed. I cry. I just do. It's like, right? I just say I'm sorry. Like, but, and I do it when I'm mad. I do all the things. It's just, that's my way of coping with stress. But I also find that as I'm getting older, and I don't know if any of you have seen this, but anxiety and worries, that goes hand in hand with taking care of somebody else besides yourself. I do that with my children. A lot more anxiety than, especially as they get older, right? We were just talking about children driving. That's one of my biggest ones. Like, do I want them to drive? Yes, I need them to drive. But no, I don't want them to drive. Wait, this is going to benefit me. But this is really stressful. Even, again, back to those aggressive behaviors. I know some people that they get stressed out and we're throwing things and we're screaming and we're yelling and we're doing all the things that just are not mentally satisfying. Like, it's only going to cause more stress to get angry. So finding ways to be resilient, and when we have those stressors, especially things like toxic stress, because if we don't have good coping skills, then these things take over, and then again, you're going to have more of the physical. You won't want to come to the gym and do the max meltdown. You're not going to sleep. You're going to find nights of insomnia. What are some of your stressors, like things that happen besides crying? Yeah. It's easy to throw yourself into something, like work, even though it's your stressor, but it's easy, right? That I can relate. I'll just get on my computer. Or me, I've gotten jobs. I've gotten second jobs before, just to be like, okay, if I keep myself busy enough, maybe I won't notice it, right? You can't hide it either. So how do you find ways to cope with all those things, like insomnia, or hopefully not bedwetting, or headaches, things like that? We can go to the next one, because now we're going to go into coping. So I like to call these guys my coping skills. When my family and I moved back from Germany, I said I can finally get an animal, right? There's just something about animals that it's not for everybody, but for me, they're a great coping skill. It's like you pick them up. Not all cats. I'm more of a dog person, but my husband loves Maine Coon cats and convinced me that they were the best thing that you had to have, right? So sure enough, we got the first one. And as you can see, she looks like she might eat your face. But she is, she's okay. Like, she'll lay with you when she wants to. But she's your typical cat. She doesn't want to be bothered. Like, she wants to play and she wants attention later. And my husband convinced me once again that if we got a male cat, that he would be affectionate like I needed, and he would be that source of calm. But it was his cat. That's why his name is Tiberius. And so I said, okay. And he was right. And now this is being recorded, so he will know that I said that. But he is. So he is my sense of calm. If I pick him up, he immediately like melts into your arms, and he snuggles, and he smells good, and he's fluffy, and he doesn't wiggle away, and he'll sleep on me. And like if I telework, he legit is right beside me like a dog. He begs for food like a dog. But he is the male Maine Coon that people talk about that really, if he could be a therapy animal, I would do it. But he would not like that. Is more a dog realm, right? So he is my coping skill. Like if I'm feeling those sad emotions, I just snatch him up. Even if, but he just deals with it. He's just like, oh, fine. And he lays there and he lets me do whatever. Yeah, and he does. And it's amazing. So when we look at those emotions and focus coping strategies, and the things to reduce, to distress, any stressful situation, and I'm not saying I would utilize him if I'm in a really stressful situation. Like I'm going to have to find things like deep breathing, and those we talk about later on down the road. But he's a good go-to right then. Like this morning. I mean, not that I really needed him. I just petted him a little bit and I was fine and went about my business. But I was like, oh, crap, stupid school, But what do you do for those short-lived? Do you have a pet? Do you have, I don't know, a journal? What is your coping strategy for those stressful situations? Yeah. Spirituality and any type of cardio that gets those endorphins going, even just walking, um, really does help the mind. I will do something later on called like 4-7-8 breathing. I was never a supporter of breathing. I'm just like, I breathe daily. I, I just, I don't get it. Why do I need to breathe 4 times and then hold it for 7 and then exhale for 8 or whatever it might be, in order to feel better? But when I learned it, I found that I was like, okay, it's the only one I'll teach. Because it does. It comes from the gut, and there's just something about when you're done that your body just, it's like when you hold an animal or a baby, those things that make you kind of like, it's the senses, like all your senses come together and you just relax and you feel your body just kind of go, your shoulders go down, and it's like a weight had come off. And so we'll learn that later on in like the meditation, when we do like more meditation topics. So that goes hand in hand, like with, you can do that when you're exercising, unless you're running, and then, I wouldn't try that. So if we looked at problem focused coping strategies, right, efforts to manage or modify the source of the stressful situation, like I like to call this like solution focused therapy. If we're looking at my social work background, then, we want to find a solution to the problem. And what are our goals to get there is how I like to look at that. So I said, well, I feel better when I have an animal. So my husband got me 2 cats. We can go to the next one. Okay, so how can I improve my resilience to stress? So if we're going to start with small changes in our routine, like you made a small change by just coming here, right? Or doing the max meltdown. And it will help to build, right, in each circumstance. So we work in part-time exercise, eating healthy, relaxing, sleep. Those are all your big ones. I know. It's like, man, I say this stuff and I don't even do it myself because I don't. And it's just good to be honest about it because it's just hard. I mean, I know individuals who who pay for workouts and for somebody to tell them what they eat and to, like, and then they'll tell them you need more, you need better sleep, you need, you're stressed out. Hi, I'm that person. And I'm like, I know, right? So we know that these are the things we need to do. So how can I improve them? Like, what are the things that I can do to improve those? So I can say, I'm going to put an alarm on my phone that tells me at 8 o'clock that I need to be in bed by, at least 9, that I need to at least be in bed, right? So then that way, at least I'm telling myself I'm going to try to get a good night's sleep. And eventually, maybe I will start going to bed at, like, I might be in bed at 9. I might watch a show or read a book or journal, but I'm asleep by 10 because now I'm allowing my mind to wind down. I always suggest turning off electronics like at least an hour before you're ready to go to bed because you need your mind to wind down. So that's taking that time an hour before you would want to go to sleep to say journal or read a book. I know a lot of people say I just scroll on my phone. Well, here's the problem. That's an electronic device. And you're scrolling, and now guess what? That entire hour you've just spent on Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is, and I've sent my daughter 12 new recipes to help her learn how to cook. I'm like, here, you can do this one, just because I'm scrolling. So learning to say, okay, I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to say, I think I have one of them, like, do not disturb. Like, I can't even access it until like 7 a.m. or something. Oh, nice. So now I can't even get in it unless I like go in and I like undo this. And I'm like, that's just a lot of work. So those are like little things that you can do. Healthy eating. When we think about, we always hear healthy eating. It's so much easier, especially if you have kids, if you're taking care of people, if you're working late and then maybe going to another job, if whatever it might be, that it's easier to just drive through, or making processed foods. So learning to maybe potentially meal prep on the weekends and saying, like, this is my food for the week. Like, this is what I know I'm eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And having them ready to go, freezing meals. That used to be a very big go-to for me, was crock pot frozen meals. And it was like, because if my kids got home, I could say, just throw it in there in the morning before you go to school. And then as long as, because I had to be at work before them, so I didn't want it in there that early. And they got to kind of help with it, right? Or potentially allowing them to help through the week, cut up whatever vegetables and put it in a bag. So being able to provide nutritious meals for yourself, and then knowing that, hey, like, I don't have to worry about even driving through somewhere. And then you're being budget friendly, right? Because your meals are prepped. You're not like, you're like, oh, I have food at home, but I don't want to go home and cook because I'm just too tired. I say that enough. I say it all the time. And that is one thing in my house. I finally had to tell my kids, like, one day, you get one day a week that we eat out, one day. And every week it rotates. So a kid every 3 weeks gets to pick what they get to eat or whatever. It might get taken away from one kid here eventually because his choices are not very good. Yes. Because I'm like, I'm hungry because this was not good. So, knowing that, hey, you can't ask me, throughout the week to eat out. Can we please just go through somewhere? No. Like, there's a pot pie in the fridge already made and it's going in the oven tonight. Like, that's what's there. I send out a menu. Like, if you have kids, I send out a menu on Sunday of what they're having all week. Do not ask me, because this is what you're having. And my son came home yesterday and he goes, so we're having, I think I mean goulash today. And I was like, yeah. He was like, I saw the menu. I mean, that couldn't have been that stressful for him. Like, he doesn't have to do anything. Another thing is, my kids start this next week, is HelloFresh. So now 5 nights a week, they get to cook. We did this all the time when we lived in Washington. And it's just easy. They each get to pick a meal. They will cook it for the other ones, and the other ones will clean up. Like, these are just the types of little things that you can do to just help, like, within your daily life. So if it's things like, if you know that I've just worked late and I don't want to cook, well, okay, then we'll order these meals that it only takes 30 minutes to make. So I know that I'm not spending an hour in the kitchen, or I've meal prepped for the week, so I know it's in the freezer. And that's just one thing that's just alleviating that. When it comes to exercise, now that we're in Bravo, I know that we've lost our hour of being able to work out, which is really, it stinks. So ways that you can move, and we will do, like, further on during this series, like, there's yoga that you can do from your chair, like on your lunch break. So you don't even have to leave your desk. You can just do it right from your chair. And that goes along with, like, some of the deep breathing exercises. Getting up and just walking the halls at work. You have 15-minute breaks. Just, I don't know, get on the elevator and go up and then just walk, and then go the next one and walk, and just, walk in a circle just to get the steps in, get your heart rate up, just to make you feel better, especially after lunch. If you eat lunch and then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, you're like, it's time for a nap. It's like Thanksgiving every day, right? You eat and then you're tired. So making sure that you get up and you move your body, that's really going to help too. It may not be that full exercise that you're used to. Maybe you're used to coming in and doing, 30 minutes of cardio and then, a 45-minute lift, whatever it is, but you can't do that now because, like, after this, I've got X, Y, and Z to do. And I just refuse to get up early to come to the gym, because I like my sleep, whatever it might be. So just finding those little tips and tricks that you can do throughout the day. Even bringing in a pair of like weights for your ankles will help when walking. Or having like 5-pound dumbbells at your desk, like while you're sitting there, maybe you're on a training or whatever, you can just move your arms. Like, you can go up, you can go down, you can just do little bits of things to keep yourself active throughout the day. And you're doing it from your office or your cubicle or home. Hey, if you're at home, use your lunch to throw on a YouTube video, do some yoga on the floor, or mindfulness, or strength-based, body weight exercises. Those are just little things that you can do that will keep your mind fresh, and it will allow you to feel just a little bit healthier. We can go to the next one. Thank you. So 5 tips to manage stress. Again, guided meditation. We are going to dive into deep breathing. You are already diving into the good exercise and nutrition with your Max Meltdown. I think you get both of those, right? Like the exercise, and so that's amazing. We just talked about, managing your social media time, but when we talk about managing connections with others, I've always found that, I like to say, like, we need time for ourselves. We need time, like, with our spouse or significant other. We need time with our children if we have them, or our family. And we just need to find a way to balance that. And that connection's really important, because if we don't have that connection, then you start to feel kind of isolated. And I think that's what happened with COVID, right? We all were once working, and you see people daily, and you have these great interactions, and you can collaborate, and you can do all these things at work. And then all of a sudden we're working from home, and we're trying to figure out, one, how we reach the people that we're serving. And then 2, well, I don't get to see Jen's face every day. Like, I enjoyed talking to her at lunch, or, whatever it was. And so then, and for me, I was at home with 3 kids going to school. So I'm like, wait a second. Like, if I'm teleworking, it's not my job to be a teacher. So now we have another stressor, right? So not only am I an educator, I'm a social worker, I'm a therapist. I've added all these other jobs to my plate due to, unforeseen circumstances. So how do I manage those connections? A lot of people got comfortable being at home by themselves and working from home. And that connection now to come back brings a lot of anxiety, which is totally understandable. I can say that coming here, like I never worked like just in an office like I have now, like, and it's made me sometimes I'm like, I feel kind of secluded in here. Like I don't have anybody to talk to. Like this is weird. Like, so I will legit get up to walk to another office just to say hi. I I shouldn't be out away from my desk because I'm like, I know I have work to do, but I do it just because I need that connection. So understanding when it's appropriate, like if you're feeling a certain way, or it's that time I just had lunch, I'm really full. I kind of feel like I could put my head on my desk. I'm in here all by myself. I totally could. But no, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk and I'm going to go, make some connections. Now, also connections is is are they positive? Like, are our connections positive? Like, are the people that we're working with and dealing with, are they bringing more stress to our life? Or are they bringing something that I can learn and grow from? Are they just somebody I like to talk to? Or is this somebody that I'm dealing with? I shouldn't have to. And those are the connections that I want you to look at and say, okay, how do I erase that? Like, how do I get rid of that? Even if it's work environment, like it can be anything from toxic leadership to hostile work environments to, coworkers. Like, how do I deal with that? And finding ways to deal with those destructive connections, because they too will cause lots of stress. We can go to the next one. I always think, principles to resilience. I mean, I'm sure there's more out there. But gratitude, compassion, accepting, meeting, forgiveness, right? So if we think, a lot of these I put towards toxic stress, right? So if we have these toxic stressors, but we find that we can be forgiving and say whatever that stressful situation was. Maybe for me, again, I work with domestic violence victims. And so if they're able to forgive, that for them, that is helping their stress, right? If they can say, like, I may not forget, but I forgive. Or accepting, like, this was my life and this is where I was. And whether or not I chose to stay for X amount of time, or I chose to leave, or I chose to, some situations it has been where we have put ourselves in situations of now we're more poverty stricken. So now not only did we leave one stressful situation, but we've added another one, right? But understanding that we've accepted the changes that we're making, right? And just being grateful for the things and having gratitude for what we do have around us. They really do give you that sense of weight, right? And I find that putting these types of things in journals is what is really helpful. I just bought a journal, and it has like different parts on it, and one of them is like, it asks you like basically all these different questions, like, and you just describe them, right? So who was the jerk of the day is one of them, or what was the jerk of the day or something. And it's like, oh, well, what was? And then I can say something like, my kid snuck his video game. Yep, that's the problem of the day. Or, what am I grateful for, and writing down, like, I think I wrote, I'm writing in this. Like, I did it. Like, I may not do it every day, but I did it today. So understanding that it may not be something that you have to do every day, but you're being resilient in that moment. You're finding time to sit in bed at night instead of watch TV and write in a journal, or you're finding time to sit in bed and read a book. Those are the things that are going to make you more resilient. Yeah. I used to run a journaling group, and it was just like, and we would just give a topic every week, and like, this is what you needed to write about. Sometime this week you just needed to write about X, Y, and Z, and it could be like, what is your stressor this week, or this day, or whatever. And then you come back at the next group, and it was up to them to be able to share about it. Like, do you want to share what your stressors were, or your triggers, or whatever it may be. But if you get on Amazon, yeah, Amazon. I don't promote just Amazon. There's Walmart has them. That's where I got mine, was Barnes and Noble. I think everybody should journal. I say it. I do it for a while, and then I it's like New Year's resolutions, right? I'm going to do this. And then you do it for a minute, and then somehow something happens, life stress happens, and you're like, crap. So that's like why I wrote in my journal last night, like, I'm writing in this. Like, and it doesn't even have to be a lot. It can just be like whatever you're feeling at the moment to make you feel better about whatever situation is happening. Even if it's like writing something negative. I'll never forget my oldest daughter wrote in her journal, and she left it open, and it was, something great about her mom. But in turn, when I said, so you weren't supposed to see that. And I was like, I know, but I clean your room and you left it open. So this is what I saw. And she was like, it's just, you made me mad. And I was like, okay. And that's the words you chose to use. And she was like, yes. And I was like, all right, that's your safe space. Yeah, but that was her safe space, right? So I said, now, we're not allowed to say things like this out loud. Like, because one, you don't mean them. You were angry and heated in the moment, and you put it down. And that's what journals are for. And that's why I like the prompt ones, and I like the ones that are just blank pages, because sometimes it's just easy to just like spew. Like, it's like when you want to send that nasty email back, but you can't. And so you just maybe type it up. You're like, oh, I feel better. But make sure you hit delete and not send, okay? It's things like calendars. Like when you're in a job interview and they ask you how you stay organized. You're like, and my brain all of a sudden went, shit, I'm not even organized up here. Like, you're stressing me out with this question, but how do I stay organized? And I think that's how it is, like, with stress, right? We have to figure out how we stay organized. We have to figure out, one, okay, if I know that this stresses me out, but I have to deal with it today, like whether it's a meeting or taking care of somebody, or I just don't want to take my kid to whatever sport they're in, even though I'm like, they have to be active. But I don't want to drive there. No, I'm glad I live somewhere where my kids can walk. Because honestly, I mean, stress, right? Single parent right now, like a family, a house separated. And that's stressful. So how do you, well, let's keep normalcy, right? Normalcy is important. So trying to have that schedule. I don't know. I'm getting there. I just got here in September. So I'm like, I feel like we're in January. Okay, I'm doing good. Like, I haven't hurt anybody, and nobody's hurt me, and I haven't cried yet in the month of January. So, yeah, that, right? So, okay, I feel like, okay, that's a little bit of organization, right? And that's only because, well, I set out a menu. Like, I know what my kids are eating this week and next week already because it's paid for. And I know where everybody goes. Like, okay, we've got this on this day and this on this day, and I only have to drive one place. So organization in life is like organization at work. And if we add just a little bit of organization, it will help with that principles to resilience. We can go to the next one. We could talk about this forever. So, again, helpful tips. So, changing our perceptions. Again, break. Take those breaks. Eat lunch and then take a walk. Don't ever compromise your values or beliefs. Like when people pleasing, yeah. Make sure you're doing it because you really want to, and it really is okay to say no. My boss before here told me when I took this job, he's like, I'm so happy for you, so proud of you, but learn to say no. And I was like, wow, Jesse. Wow. Okay. Like that hit kind of hard. Like, because I know how much I had on my plate where I was before. So, and that's because I didn't know how to say no. Avoid caffeine. Never mind. Scratch that. Right? I say don't avoid it, but minimize it. You don't need 6 cups a day. Yeah, and sugar is a big one too, because sugar again will make you drop, and it will make you drop fast. But those are the things you're going to learn here, like through the next 8 weeks or however many weeks you're with Max Meltdown and things like that. Like nutrition is one of the big ones. Nutrition and exercise and sleep. When you look at that healthy mind platter, I think that's my next one. We can go to that. Yep, the healthy mind platter. And I printed this off for you guys. It's the big one. These are the things that if we're thinking about healthy mind, healthy life, helping with our stress, helping to be resilient, we look at the healthy mind platter because we want to say, I need to organize my life like this. When do I need to go to bed? Because what time am I waking up? Is that enough sleep for me? Like, it doesn't matter what they say out on the internet. Like, babies need X amount of sleep time. Well, mom needs X amount of sleep time too. So what time do I need to go to bed for what time it is I want to wake up? Eventually, that routine, you'll wake up before the alarm. Like, that's just where you'll be. And then again, the physical time. So now that I can't work out for an hour, how can I get in some time? Do I have time before work? Do I have time after work? Can I walk during my lunch? Focus time, that time before bed, that's where I like to put it. It alleviates the electronics, and it allows you to really focus on, okay, I'm winding down my mind. And then, so again, we look at the connecting time, the playtime, please add playtime to your life. You have to be doing things that are for you and things that you want to do, and not because you have to do them. Like, we know that we have to wake up and we have to come to work every day, or else we don't get a paycheck and we can't pay our bills. Like, so we know that is a must. But I don't know, maybe you like to ski and you just haven't been going because you want your weekend to sit at home. Well, okay, it's okay to sit at home on a Saturday, but maybe on Sunday you go skiing for a couple hours, just because you like doing it and you enjoy doing it, and when you're done, you're like, man, that felt good, or whatever. Not that you're doing that anywhere close to here, but I'm not even sure where to go to do that. But playtime is important. Those things for yourself. When we say make time for ourselves, make time for our family, and then make time for others. So setting out those times. And it might be, I don't know, going to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch a football game, or you've never bought tickets to a professional game of any sort, and you go and you do that just because you're like, I've always wanted to do this. Like, those are play times and things that are important. And maybe you find like, wow, I don't know why I hype this up so much. I would rather be at home on my couch doing it. And that's true too. And that's okay. But you did it and you figured it out. So we'll go back to organizing. This is a good way to look at how we organize our life, is looking at this healthy mind platter, and it will really help set you up for the other things that we're going to learn along the way. So I hope this was helpful. Any questions, comments, concerns?